In this episode, we're going to talk about fire extinguishers. Fire extinguishers have been around since, believe it or not, the Romans, but we don't go back that far. These are some of the early ones. They were called fire grenades, and the idea was they were glass globes. You would pick it up and you would throw it at the base of the fire. The glass would break and the chemical inside, which is carbon tetrachloride, will put the fire out. What it does is it breaks the chemical reaction of the fire. Because there is a chemical reaction when things burn, this chemical breaks that chemical chain of reactions. And it will, I always thought it smothered the fire, but I've found out since that no, it doesn't smother the fire, it doesn't displace the oxygen, it breaks the chemical reaction. There were various forms of it. If you go into old stores, you might see something similar to this, or this, hanging on the wall, or you'd see something mounted on the wall like these. The way these work is there's a lead seal, and inside is a spring. Normally this would be pushed up like so. The lead seal, the heat of the fire would melt the lead seal, and this part would drop off and allow the spring to push this little hammer up against the glass and break it, and let the carbon tetrachloride fall down and mix with the air and put the fire out. Or there were some where you could, they didn't hang, they were mounted on the wall. You could take this out and throw it at the fire. This is a different thing, but it still works the same way. You've got a lead seal that will melt, and then this pin comes up and breaks the glass. There were multiple variations of it. If you were in a vehicle, you might, or even in households, you might come across something that looked like these two. They have the same chemical, the carbon tetrachloride, inside them, but they work like a squirt gun. You pull the T-handle back and push it forward, and it works just like a squirt gun, and you squirt the chemical at the fire. This is a miniature version of it that was pressurized, and all you did was you hold it in your hand like this and turn the knob on the top to release the fluid or the chemical toward the fire and point it toward the fire. That would put the fire out. This, you might think, is a fire extinguisher with the carbon tetrachloride in it. No, it's not. This is a fire alarm. There's a chemical in here that will turn color. There's another lead seal that when the temperature gets to the right degree of heat, the lead seal will melt, and there's a can of Freon in there and a little horn. So you'll hear a or something like that to let you know there's a fire. All that does is let you know there's a fire. Doesn't do anything to put it out. This one and this one are called, they're CO2. Inside them is carbon dioxide that smothers the fire, displaces the oxygen and smothers the fire. This one is a modern one. It's a throwaway. This was used for B and C fires. Electrical and oil fires, okay? And once you use it, you pull the pin and squeeze this, point it at the fire. But once you use it, you can't refill it because the head is plastic. And once it's used, you can't reseal it. So you just throw it away and buy a new one. And this is plastic too. These here are metal. This is another version of the carbon tetrachloride one. that had air pressure in it, and you would squirt this little hose against the fire. This is a dry chemical extinguisher, and in here is a CO2 cartridge. The way this would operate was you'd open this valve to pressurize it, and then there's a squeeze handle on the end of the hose, and you would do this to get the chemical powder onto the fire. This is a dry chemical. It's just a little handheld one. Works much the same way as this. You just pull the pin, squeeze this handle, and point it at the fire. This is another version of a BC dry chemical. This is another small CO2, and this one is another version of the small dry chemical. Up here, the soda acid by different manufacturers, and these are all soda acids until you get to here, and this it's a pressurized water, but it has an antifreeze in it, like RV antifreeze. It's not flammable, it's not toxic. This is just plain pressurized water. This is a foam extinguisher that works similar to a soda acid extinguisher, and then these two are just pressurized water extinguishers. There's nothing in there but water and air. Air pressurizes it so you can squirt the water out. Now, soda acid extinguisher, this is one, and in a minute I'll show you how it works. Down here are some of the oldest that we have. These two on the top shelf, the blue one and the clear one right next to it, those are hand grenades, or fire grenades as they were referred to. They were very early before these type, and it worked the same way. You threw it, you take it, picked it off the table or the shelf, wherever it was, and you threw it at the fire. This is another one that looks much like a chimney lamp, or a kerosene lamp chimney. It's in its shape, but it had the same chemical, the carbon tetrachloride in it. Carbon tetrachloride is a known cancer causer, and it can't be used in extinguishers anymore, but it is still used for other reasons in manufacturing and so on. These over here, there's a couple more of the carbon tetrachloride ones. These two cans that look like a soda can are dry powder, or they contain a liquid, the carbon tetrachloride, but they've got a pop top. You just pop the top and throw it at the fire. Throw the contents at the fire. These down here are pop top tubes. They're a metal tube basically filled with a dry chemical, which was probably baking soda or a chemical similar to baking soda. You'd pop the top and you'd take it and do this to throw the powder on the fire, and that would smother the fire. It would work with the chemical reaction and stop it from burning. And then there's a can, probably a 2-gallon can, but they measured it by pounds. That's dry powder in that. You could open that and take a cup or something and throw the powder inside on fire. Now, soda acid extinguishers. Some people wonder how they work. If you remember your science class from school, in my class, we experimented with baking soda and water, okay? And then when we added vinegar to it, or an acid, it would create a foam. Well, that's how soda acid works. This top, you take the top off, And inside is a bird cage with a glass bottle in it. Now you'd put 2.5 gallons of water in here with a mixture of baking soda in the water, okay? So you had that mixture. Inside this bottle is sulfuric acid, and it has a lead top on it, a lead stopper, to keep the acid from mixing with the foam. And what you did was, in order to activate a soda acid extinguisher, you had to turn the whole thing upside down. The stopper would fall out, the acid would mix with the baking soda and water, create the foam, and spew it out the hose. That would create pressure. It would create a gas that created the pressure to push it out through the hose. They aren't very popular. I don't know if they even still make them, because that combination is very corrosive. It will corrode things. It will eat metal. So they really don't use them anymore. And that's about it on these.